The great meeting hall of Nexus Prime stretched out like a massive dome made of crystal and steel. 12 different seats surrounded the center stage, each one built for a different alien race. Some seats were small for tiny beings made of pure energy. Others were huge metal chairs for the bug-like Krillians. The air hummed with the sound of translation machines, turning alien words into something everyone could understand. Ambassador Elena Vasquez sat in the human section. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple style. She wore a plain blue uniform with small Earth symbols on the collar. Around her, the other alien representatives talked in their strange languages. Their words came through her earpiece as cold, translated English. "The human question will now be decided," announced the council speaker, a tall being with silver skin and no mouth. Its words came directly into everyone's mind. Humans have been on trial membership for 200 years. Today we vote if they can join us fully. Councillor Thektar stood up from the Krillian section. He looked like a giant praying mantis made of black metal. His forearms moved as he spoke. "Fellow council members, we must think carefully about this choice. Humans are dangerous. They do not follow the rules that keep our galaxy safe." The bug-like alien activated a holographic display. Images of human ships appeared in the air above them. "Look at these records. In the Battle of Kepler Station, human ships charged straight at enemy forces, even when retreat was the smart choice. 15 human ships were lost. Any logical race would have pulled back." Murmurs went around the room. Many of the aliens nodded their strange heads. "More examples," Thektar continued. "During the Proxima Colony disaster, humans sent rescue teams into a radiation storm. Council orders said to wait for the storm to pass. Humans ignored these orders. They lost 8 rescue workers to save 60 colonists." Trademaster Zephon spoke up from his floating chair. The Valerian looked like a jellyfish made of blue light. "The Krillian speaks truth. Humans do not follow cost-benefit analysis. They spend too much to save too few. This makes them unreliable partners." Elena listened to each accusation. Her face stayed calm, but her hands were folded tightly in her lap. Wise Singer melody drifted forward. The Etherian was just a ball of golden light that changed shape as it spoke. "But council friends, do we not value life? The humans saved many people in these actions. At what cost?" Thektar's metal claws clicked together. "Resources wasted, ships lost, lives thrown away for emotional reasons. This is not how civilized beings should act." Another alien representative stood up. This one looked like a walking tree with blue bark. "The humans also question our decisions too much. Last month, they asked why we do not help the people of Vega 7. We explained that Vega 7 is outside our territory. Humans asked why that mattered." "Exactly," said Zephon. "They do not respect boundaries. They want to help everyone, everywhere. This cannot work in a galaxy with rules and borders." Elena finally stood up. The room became quiet. All the strange alien eyes turned to look at her. She was small compared to most of them, but she did not look afraid. "Council members," she began, her voice steady and clear. "I have listened to your concerns. You say we are too aggressive. You say we take too many risks. You say we do not follow the rules." She paused and looked around the room. "Maybe you are right. We do charge into danger when others would stay safe. We do try to save people even when the numbers say we should not. We do ask questions when you want us to stay quiet." Thektar's metal head tilted. This was not what he expected her to say. "But we do these things because we believe every life has value. We take risks because sometimes the impossible is just hard work that nobody wants to do. We ask questions because blindly following rules without understanding them is how good people get hurt." Elena's voice grew stronger. "You say we are emotional. Yes, we are. We cry when children die. We get angry when bullies hurt the weak. We feel joy when families are reunited. If feeling these things makes us unfit for your council, then maybe we do not belong here." The room was very quiet now. Even the translation machine seemed to hum more softly. "However," Elena continued, "we respect your decision. If you believe the galaxy is safer without humans, we will not fight you. We will leave peacefully. We will honor our agreements until the day we go." We will not cause trouble or hold grudges. She sat back down. The silence stretched on for several long minutes. The council speaker's voice entered their minds again. We will vote now. Each species will vote yes or no for human membership. One by one, the votes came in. The Krillians voted no. The Valerians voted no. The tree-like Dendrians voted no. The metal-eating ferrets voted no. 4 other species also voted no. Only the Etherians, the aquatic Merhai, the crystal beings called Shardtel, and the small furry Piptel voted yes. The vote is complete, announced the speaker. 8 votes against. 4 votes for. The humans are denied full membership in the Galactic Council. They are declared incompatible with galactic civilization. Elena stood up again. Her face was sad, but not angry. We understand. We will begin preparations to leave Council space. We ask for 1 standard year to withdraw completely. Granted, said the speaker. Elena walked toward the exit. As she passed Thektar's section, the big alien spoke quietly. You take this defeat well, human. She stopped and looked up at him. It is not defeat, counselor. It is just a different path. We came here hoping to build something together. Now we will build something apart. Either way, we will build. The doors closed behind her with a soft hiss. In the great hall, the alien representatives began to file out. Most seemed satisfied with their choice. A few, like wise singer Melody, drifted more slowly, as if something troubled them, but the vote was done. The choice was made. Humanity would leave the galactic community that had rejected them. What happened next would surprise them all. The news of the Council's decision spread across the galaxy within hours. On human colonies, settlements, and space stations throughout Council territory, people gathered around communication screens to hear Ambassador Vasquez's message. Fellow humans, Elena said from her simple office on Earth's orbital station. The Galactic Council has made their choice. We have 1 year to withdraw from all Council space. I know this news brings sadness and disappointment, but we will leave with dignity. We will show them what humanity really means. Dr. Sarah Chen received the message while working in the medical bay of Kepler Station. Around her, alien patients lay in beds, recovering from various injuries and illnesses. The Rithian trader in bed 7 had been dying from blood poisoning when he arrived. The young Piptel engineer in bed 12 had been burned in an engine explosion. Sarah's assistant, a nervous Valerian named Quickpulse, floated beside her. Dr. Chen, what will happen to the patients when you leave? Sarah looked at her medical charts. 23 patients currently needed care that only human doctors could provide. The closest non-human medical facility was 6 days away by fast ship. We will not abandon anyone, she said firmly. Send a message to the Medical Council. Tell them we need replacement doctors here within the month. We will train them personally. On the mining planet, Zerion 7, Chief Engineer Mike Rodriguez stood in front of a massive atmospheric processor. The machine took the planet's poisonous air and turned it into something the colonists could breathe. It was human technology, built with human methods that other species found confusing. His replacement, a methodical Krillian named Engineer Prime Sector, studied the complex controls. This design is inefficient, the bug-like alien said through his translator. Why do you have 17 backup systems? Mike wiped grease from his hands. Because if this machine stops working, 40,000 people die. We build things to last, not to look pretty on blueprints. Sector's metal claws tapped against the control panel. The Council designs would use only 3 backup systems. Mathematical probability shows this is sufficient. Math is fine until it isn't, Mike replied. But you're in charge now. These are the manuals. These are the maintenance schedules. This red button is for emergencies only. It will keep the machine running for 6 hours if everything else fails. The Krillian looked at the thick stack of papers Mike handed him. This seems excessive, Mike shrugged. Maybe. But in 5 years, this processor has never failed. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Human teachers spent extra hours making sure their alien students could continue their education. Human engineers left detailed notes about every system they had built or repaired. Human security officers trained their replacements in patrol routes and emergency procedures. On the research station, Gamma 1-2, Professor Janet Liu worked day and night to complete her team's archaeological project. They had been studying the ruins of an ancient civilization for 3 years. The dig site was finally yielding important discoveries about how the galaxy's first spacefaring race had lived and died. "Professor," said her research partner, a crystalline shardtell named Clarity of Purpose, "surely you cannot finish this work in 1 year." Janet looked up from the alien artifact she was carefully cleaning. "We will get as far as we can. Then we will give you everything we have learned. The work must continue. But this is your discovery, your life's work." Janet smiled sadly. "Science belongs to everyone. Knowledge should not be locked away because of politics." Armin. The transportation ships began arriving at human settlements after the first month. Large cargo vessels came to collect personal belongings and equipment. Smaller ships shuttled families to new homes outside council space. The aliens who watched were surprised by how organized and peaceful everything was. No protests, no angry speeches, no attempts to delay or sabotage the withdrawal. Humans simply packed their lives into boxes and moved on. Captain James Park commanded the human patrol ship Guardian in the dangerous Omega sector. His crew had spent 2 years keeping pirates and raiders away from the shipping lanes. The sector was known for its hidden asteroid fields and unexpected solar storms that could destroy an unprepared ship. His replacement was Commander Thekuri, Thektar's younger cousin. The young Krillian had excellent grades from the military academy but no real combat experience. "The patrol routes are here," James said, handing over a datapad. "This asteroid field hides raider bases. This nebula generates sensor interference. When you chase pirates through here, always approach from the sunward side. They never expect it." Thekuri studied the tactical information. "These patrol patterns are unusual. Standard doctrine suggests different approaches." "Standard doctrine doesn't work here," James replied. "We learned these lessons by nearly getting killed several times. But you are in command now. Do what you think best." As the months passed, some council members began to notice small changes. Supply shipments that had always arrived on time started running late. Maintenance schedules that humans had managed so efficiently began to slip behind schedule. Systems that had run smoothly for years started having mysterious problems. Trademaster Zephon reviewed his quarterly reports with growing concern. Efficiency ratings were down across multiple sectors. Human contractors had always delivered goods on time and under budget. Their replacements were more expensive and less reliable. "These problems are temporary," he told his staff. "Adjustment difficulties. Once new procedures are established, efficiency will return." But privately, he began to wonder if human methods had been more effective than anyone realized. Dr. Melody drifted through the medical records from former human-operated facilities. Emergency response times had increased by an average of 40%. Success rates for difficult procedures had dropped. Other species followed proper medical protocols exactly. But somehow, human doctors had achieved better results by bending the rules. On Kepler Station, Dr. Chen's replacement struggled with the same blood poisoning case that Sarah had handled easily. The Graxian doctor followed all standard procedures, but the patient was not improving. The human doctor did something different, Quick Pulse told the new doctor. She talked to the patient, made jokes. The patient always got better when she laughed. The Graxian doctor found this information irrelevant. Medical treatment does not involve emotions. The patient will recover according to biological protocols. But the patient did not recover as quickly as before. 6 months after the council's vote, Ambassador Vasquez made her final appearance before the assembled representatives. She looked tired but calm. Her blue uniform was perfectly pressed, and she carried a simple datapad. "Honored council members," she said, "our withdrawal will be complete in 2 weeks. All human personnel will be gone. All equipment transfers will be finished. All training programs will be concluded." She handed the datapad to the council speaker. "This contains our final reports. Medical data that might prove useful. Engineering specifications. Research findings. Everything we learned during our time here." The speaker's mental voice was neutral. "This is acceptable." Elena looked around the great chamber one last time. "We want you to know that despite everything, We bear no anger toward any of you. You made the choice you thought was best for your people. We respect that. We hope that in the future, perhaps, circumstances will be different. Thektar's metal voice spoke up. Where will your people go? Beyond the rim, Elena said simply. There are empty systems out there. New worlds to explore. We will find our place among the stars. Just as you have found yours. She turned to leave, then paused. Take care of each other. The galaxy can be a dangerous place. The doors closed behind her for the last time. In the chamber, several representatives shifted uncomfortably. Something about her final words felt less like a farewell and more like a warning. 2 weeks later, the last human transport ship crossed the boundary of Council space and disappeared into the dark between galaxies. The great human experiment in galactic civilization was over. What came next would teach the Council just how much they had lost. 6 months after the last human ship disappeared beyond the galactic rim, the first serious problems began to surface. Commander Thakuri sat in his patrol ship, staring at the tactical display in frustration. 3 merchant vessels had been attacked by pirates in the Omega sector over the past week. Each time, his ships had arrived too late to do anything but file reports and collect debris. The raiders seem to know our patrol schedule, reported his tactical officer. They strike when we are furthest away. Thakuri studied the star charts. The old human patrol routes looked random and inefficient. He had replaced them with logical, mathematical patterns that covered the sector more systematically. Our patrol pattern is optimal. The computer calculations prove this. Yes, sir. But the pirates are still getting through. The young Krillian commander felt a sting of annoyance. His predecessor, the human Captain Park, had somehow kept the sector clear, with fewer ships and a smaller crew. But those patrol methods made no mathematical sense. Meanwhile, on the mining colony Zerion 7, Engineer Prime Sector faced his own crisis. The atmospheric processor that had run perfectly for 5 years under human maintenance was having problems. The machine still worked, but not as smoothly as before. Oxygen levels fluctuated by small amounts throughout the day. The backup systems activated more often than they should. Several components showed unusual wear patterns. Sector had followed all the maintenance procedures the humans had left behind. He had even improved some of them by removing steps that seemed unnecessary. Yet somehow, the machine was not performing as well. The human procedures included many inefficient elements, he reported to his supervisors. I have optimized the maintenance schedule by removing redundant checks and excessive monitoring. His report showed impressive efficiency gains on paper, but the colonists began to complain about air quality issues they had never experienced before. The problems were not limited to former human installations. Across Council space, small difficulties began to accumulate. On the research station Gamma 1-2, Professor Clarity of Purpose struggled to continue the archaeological work that Dr. Liu had started. The human team had been close to a major breakthrough about the ancient civilization, but their methods had been unorthodox. The humans took detailed scans of each artifact, Clarity explained to her new team, but they also recorded stories about how each piece made them feel. They noted colors that reminded them of earth flowers. They wrote down emotional impressions that have no scientific value. Her new team, all properly trained scientists, agreed that such unscientific approaches were wasteful. They focused on hard data, measurements, chemical analysis, structural scans, but somehow, they were not seeing the patterns that the human team had begun to uncover. The ancient ruins remained mysterious, their secrets locked away. Trademaster Zephon reviewed the quarterly economic reports with growing concern. Efficiency was down across multiple sectors. Shipping delays were becoming common. Customer satisfaction scores were dropping. The human withdrawal was supposed to improve our systems, he said to his advisory council. They were inefficient and emotional in their business practices. Why are our numbers getting worse? His chief analyst, a logical Valerian named Swift Calculate, displayed a series of charts. Human businesses often prioritized customer satisfaction over pure profit margins. They would spend extra resources to ensure complete satisfaction, even when it was not cost-effective. That makes no sense, Zephon replied. Excessive spending reduces profits. Yes, but it also created customer loyalty. Human businesses had the highest repeat customer rates in the galaxy. Now that their competitors have taken over those customers, we are discovering that maintaining satisfaction requires more effort than we anticipated. The first major crisis came when pirates attacked a passenger liner in the Crimson Nebula. The region was known for its dangerous radiation storms and navigation hazards, but it was also the shortest route between two major trade systems. Human patrol ships had regularly swept the nebula for raiders, using techniques that other species considered too risky. They would use the radiation storms as cover, approaching hidden pirate bases from directions that sensors could not detect. The new patrol force, led by a cautious Dendrian commander, avoided such dangerous tactics. They followed safe approaches that kept their ships out of harm's way. As a result, the pirate bases in the nebula grew bolder. When they attacked the passenger liner Aurora's Dream, 400 civilians were taken hostage. The pirates demanded ransom and safe passage to the outer systems. The Council fleet surrounded the nebula but could not safely pursue the raiders into the radiation storms. Standard assault procedures required clear sensor readings and safe approach vectors. The nebula provided neither. In the past, human forces would have gone in anyway, reported Fleet Admiral Kekthon to the Council. They had a 90% success rate in nebula rescues, despite the danger to their own ships. Councillor Thektar reviewed the tactical options. What are our current rescue options? We can wait for the storms to clear. That will take 8 days, or we can negotiate with the pirates. And if we wait, the hostages will likely be sold to slave traders in the Outer Rim, standard pirate procedure. After 2 days of debate, the Council agreed to pay the ransom. The Aurora's Dream was released, but the precedent was set. Pirates now knew that Council forces would not pursue them into dangerous areas. Within weeks, pirate activity in the region increased by 300%. Dr. Melody drifted through the medical centers of Council space, observing treatment procedures with growing unease. The statistics were clear. Patient recovery rates had declined since human medical teams departed. At Kepler Station, she watched the Graxian doctor treat a patient with the same blood poisoning that Dr. Chen had handled so successfully. The alien physician followed all protocols perfectly, but the patient's condition continued to worsen. The human doctor would talk to her patients, Quick Pulse explained to Melody. She would tell jokes, share stories about Earth, make the sick people feel better in their hearts, not just their bodies. Emotional support is not medical treatment, the Graxian doctor insisted. Proper medication and procedures are sufficient, but as Melody watched, she realized that the human approach had achieved something the current methods could not. Somehow, hope and emotional connection had been part of the healing process. The Council began receiving complaints from across their territory. Systems that had run smoothly under human management were experiencing delays and problems. Colonies that had thrived with human support were struggling with new administrators. Most disturbing were the reports from frontier worlds. These remote settlements had always been dangerous places, subject to natural disasters, equipment failures, and isolation emergencies. Human teams had somehow kept these colonies functioning despite the challenges. Now, 3 frontier settlements had requested emergency evacuation. Their new support teams followed proper procedures, but somehow could not maintain the systems that humans had kept running through sheer stubbornness and creative problem-solving. The evacuation requests reached the Council just as another crisis developed. The atmospheric processor on Zirion 7 began showing serious stress signs. Sector had optimized the maintenance procedures so efficiently that several minor problems had been missed. These small issues had combined into a major system failure. The human procedures included redundant checks that seemed unnecessary. Sector reported to an emergency session. However, these checks apparently served purposes that were not documented in their technical manuals. What kind of purposes? Demanded Thektar. They appear to have been watching for problems that their mathematical models said were impossible. Unfortunately, these impossible problems have now occurred. Wise singer Melody's voice carried a note of concern. Are you saying the humans anticipated failures that logic said could not happen? It appears so. Their maintenance procedures included responses to 17 different scenarios that our probability calculations rated as extremely unlikely. 3 of these unlikely scenarios have now occurred. The council chamber was quiet for several long moments. Trademaster Zephon finally spoke. What is the status of the processor? We have implemented emergency repairs, Sector replied. But the system is operating at only 60% efficiency. Full repairs will require specialized human-designed components that we no longer have access to. The silence that followed was heavy with the weight of realization. For the first time since the vote, several council members began to wonder if they had made a mistake. But the worst was yet to come. 1 year and 3 months after humanity's departure, 3 catastrophic events struck the galaxy within the span of a single week. Each crisis revealed just how much the council had lost when they sent the humans away. The first disaster began on a routine medical inspection of the Outer Rim colonies. Dr. Melody was visiting the mining settlement on Talvaron when the colonists started falling ill. At first, it seemed like a simple case of food poisoning. Then the symptoms got worse. The fever is climbing rapidly, reported the station's Graxian doctor. The patients are developing organ failure. This is not food poisoning. Dr. Melody examined the blood samples under a microscope. What she saw made her energy form flicker with alarm. This is the Kethmori plague. But that disease was eliminated 50 years ago. The plague had once swept through the galaxy, killing millions before it was finally contained. The cure required complex treatments that few species fully understood. Only human medical databases contained the complete research data from the original outbreak. Contact the medical council immediately, Melody ordered. We need the Kethmori treatment protocols. The response came back within hours, and it was devastating. The medical council had copies of the basic treatment information, but the detailed research that made the treatment effective had been stored primarily in human databases. When the humans left, they had transferred their data to council archives, but no other species had thought to study it thoroughly. We have the cure formula, reported the council's chief medical officer, but we do not understand why it works. The human research included hundreds of small modifications that they made to improve effectiveness. Without that knowledge, our treatment success rate is only 40%. As word of the plague spread, panic began to grip the Outer Rim colonies. 6 settlements reported cases within days. The disease was spreading faster than ever before. In the past, human medical teams would have rushed to the affected areas, bringing not just medicine but the deep understanding needed to adapt treatments to different alien physiologies. Now, council medical teams followed standard procedures that were proving inadequate. The second crisis struck at the heart of council space itself. Deep in the galactic core, an ancient automated defense system suddenly activated. The Voidwalker, a massive warship left behind by a dead civilization, began moving toward inhabited systems. The kilometer-long vessel was armed with weapons that could destroy entire planets. Fleet Admiral Kekthon assembled the largest military force in Council history to stop it. 200 ships surrounded the ancient destroyer and opened fire with everything they had. Their weapons barely scratched the Voidwalker's shields. The hull appears to be made of some unknown material, reported the fleet's chief scientist. Our energy weapons are having no effect. Kinetic weapons bounce off harmlessly. The admiral studied the tactical display in growing desperation. What about ramming attacks? The ship has some kind of repulsion field. Our vessels cannot get within 10 kilometers. As the Voidwalker continued its slow advance toward the populated Kepler system, Admiral Kekthon searched the military databases for any information about similar encounters. What he found made his blood run cold. 73 years earlier, human forces had encountered a similar automated weapon. The humans had tried conventional attacks first, just like the current Council fleet. When those failed, they had done something completely illogical. Instead of using more powerful weapons, the humans had sent in their smallest, least armed ship. A single pilot had flown directly at the ancient destroyer. Ignoring all safety protocols and military doctrine, the pilot had somehow convinced the ancient artificial intelligence to shut down. The official report was classified, but the summary noted that the human had established communication through methods deemed impossible by standard xenolinguistics protocols. The human pilot spoke to the machine as if it were alive. Admiral Kekthon read aloud to his staff. According to witnesses, he told it stories about Earth. He shared human poetry. He somehow made the artificial intelligence understand loneliness. His tactical officer's mandibles clicked in confusion. "Sir, that makes no logical sense. You cannot reason with a computer program." "Perhaps not," the admiral replied grimly. The third crisis struck 2 days later, when a massive gravitational storm erupted in Sector 7. The phenomenon was rare but not unknown, a chain reaction of collapsing stellar bodies that created a wave of destructive gravity fields. The storm was heading directly for 3 inhabited systems containing over 12 million people. Computer calculations showed that evacuation was mathematically impossible. There were not enough ships to move that many people in the time available. Council evacuation protocols were clear. Save as many as possible. Accept the losses as unavoidable. And focus on containing the disaster. Emergency Coordinator Vexistal, a methodical Valerian, began implementing standard procedures. "We can evacuate approximately 30% of the population from the outer planets. The inner worlds will have to be abandoned." Trademaster Zephon reviewed the evacuation plans with cold efficiency. 8 million casualties are regrettable, but acceptable. We must focus our resources on the survivors. But wise singer Melody had been studying historical records of similar disasters. Wait. There was a gravitational storm in the Beta Centauri cluster 15 years ago. Humans were in charge of the evacuation. She displayed the old reports on the main screen. The Beta Centauri storm had been smaller but just as deadly. Standard protocols would have saved perhaps 20% of the population. The humans had saved 97%. "How is that possible?" demanded Vextal. Melody's energy form pulsed with amazement as she read. They ignored the evacuation protocols completely. Instead of using large transport ships in safe orbits, they sent in thousands of small vessels, cargo haulers, personal shuttles, racing ships, anything that could fly. "That is madness," Zephon objected. "Small ships cannot handle gravitational stress. They would be destroyed." "The humans accepted that risk," Melody continued. "They lost 47 ships and their crews. But those crews knew the danger and went anyway. They called it calculated heroism, accepting certain death for some to save uncertain life for many." The Council Evacuation Coordinator stared at the impossible numbers. "Our insurance regulations forbid using unrated vessels for emergency evacuation. Our safety protocols prohibit sending crews into certain death scenarios." "The humans had different protocols," Melody said quietly. "They had volunteers." As the 3 crises deepened, emergency sessions of the Council ran around the clock. The plague continued spreading despite their treatments. The Voidwalker advanced steadily toward inhabited worlds. The gravitational storm grew stronger each day. Counselor Thektar found himself thinking about Captain Park's patrol methods in the Omega sector. The human had somehow understood that pirates thought differently than military computers. He had used intuition and unpredictability to stay ahead of them. The humans did not just follow different procedures, Thektar realized aloud during one emergency session. They thought differently about problems. When we see a crisis, we calculate the most logical response. When they saw a crisis, they asked what response would save the most lives. Trademaster Zephon pulled up economic analyses from the human era. Their methods were inefficient by every measure we understand. They spent too much, risked too much, worried too much about individual casualties. But they got better results, Wise Singer Melody pointed out. Somehow, their emotional, illogical, inefficient methods worked better than our logical ones. The council speaker's mental voice carried an unusual tone, something that might have been regret. "Are you suggesting we made an error in rejecting the humans?" The chamber fell silent. Outside the windows of Nexus Prime, the galaxy continued turning. But it felt darker somehow. 3 major crises threatened millions of lives. And for the first time in Council history, their logical solutions were not enough. Thektar's metal claws tapped against his chair. "I am beginning to think that the humans were not dangerous because they were reckless. They were dangerous because they made us question whether our safe, logical methods were actually the best methods. The question," said Melody softly, "is whether we can learn to think like they did, or whether some kinds of thinking can only come from the heart." As the crises deepened and the death toll mounted, the council faced an uncomfortable truth. They had expelled the humans, Not because humanity was incompatible with galactic civilization, but because galactic civilization had become incompatible with hope. The vote to recall humanity was proposed the next day. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been running for 18 straight hours. Outside the Great Dome of Nexus Prime, the three crises continued to worsen. The Keth Mori plague had spread to 14 worlds. The Voidwalker was now only 6 days from the Kepler system. The gravitational storm in Sector 7 had grown beyond all previous measurements. Councillor Thektar stood before the assembly, his black metal frame showing unusual signs of stress. Fellow council members, we must face the truth. We are failing. Our logical methods, our careful procedures, our mathematical approaches. They are not enough. Trademaster Zephin's blue form flickered with agitation. Are you suggesting we abandon reason? No, Thektar replied. I am suggesting that we never truly understood what reason means. The humans showed us a different kind of logic. They calculated risk differently than we do. Wise singer Melody drifted forward, her golden energy pulsing with deep thought. I have been studying human decision-making processes. When we face a problem, we ask, what is the safest solution? What is the most efficient solution? What is the most logical solution? The humans asked. What is the most human solution? That makes no sense, protested the Dendrian representative. Human solutions were chaotic and unpredictable. Were they? Melody challenged. Or did they follow a pattern we never learned to see? Every human solution prioritized life over efficiency, hope over safety, possibility over probability. On the main display, reports continued streaming in from across the galaxy. The Graxian medical teams, treating the plague, had managed to slow its spread, but their 40% survival rate was creating panic among the populations. In the old days, human medical teams achieved 90% survival rates for the same disease. Fleet Admiral Kekthon stood up from the military section. I have been reviewing every encounter with ancient technology in our records. The humans dealt with 17 different automated defense systems over their 200 years with us. They successfully disabled 15 of them. How? Asked Thektar. By treating the machines as if they were alive, by talking to them, by sharing stories and emotions and hope, by refusing to accept that communication was impossible. The Admiral's voice carried a note of wonder. They succeeded by doing everything our logic said could not work. The council speaker's mental voice filled the chamber. Are you proposing we attempt the same approach with the Voidwalker? I am proposing we admit we do not know how. The humans possessed something we do not understand. They called it empathy. The ability to imagine how someone else thinks or feels. They applied this even to machines, even to enemies, even to impossible situations. Emergency Coordinator Vex et al. Reported from the evacuation center. The gravitational storm continues to grow. We are evacuating all possible personnel from Sector 7. But we will lose 7 million lives. The humans saved similar populations by using untrained volunteers in unsafe ships. We cannot authorize such operations. Why not? Asked Melody. Because our regulations forbid it. Our insurance protocols prevent it. Our safety standards make it illegal. The humans had different standards, Thektar observed. Their safety standard was not, follow the rules. Their safety standard was, save the people. Trademaster Zephon studied the economic projections. The cost of replacing human capabilities has exceeded our estimates by 400%. They provided services we did not know we needed until they were gone. What services? The speaker asked. Zephon activated a series of charts. Hope maintenance. That is what I have been calling it. Humans somehow maintained morale and determination in populations facing hardship. When humans left a colony, the suicide rates increased by 30% within 6 months. Their presence provided something we measured as economic productivity. But it was actually psychological support. Dr. Melody added her observations. Humans healed more than diseases. They healed despair. Their medical success rates were higher because their patients wanted to live. Other species treat symptoms. Humans treated the whole person. The debate continued through the night. As dawn broke over Nexus Prime, The council faced a decision that would define their future. We could send envoys to contact humanity, suggested one representative. Ask them to return and help with these crises. Thektar's metal head shook slowly. Based on what? We told them they were incompatible with galactic civilization. We voted that their methods were dangerous. We gave them 1 year to leave and never return. What could we say now that would not sound like desperate hypocrisy? We could admit we were wrong, said Melody softly. The chamber fell silent. In galactic politics, admitting error was almost unknown. Species might negotiate, compromise, or reinterpret decisions, but outright admissions of wrongness were extraordinarily rare. And what if they refuse? Asked Zephon. What if they have moved beyond the point where they care about our problems? Then we will have learned something about consequences, Thektar replied. The debate was interrupted by an urgent communication from the observation deck. The Voidwalker had accelerated. It would reach Kepler's system in 4 days, not 6. Admiral Kekthon stood up. I volunteer to try the human approach. I will take a single ship to the Voidwalker and attempt communication. That is suicide, protested several council members. Perhaps. But continuing to fire ineffective weapons at it is also suicide, just slower and more expensive. The council voted. By a margin of 7-5, they authorized the admiral to attempt contact with the ancient weapon using human methods. 2 days later, Admiral Kekthon sat alone in a small fighter craft, drifting toward the kilometer-long Voidwalker. He had studied every human first contact report, every record of their dealings with artificial intelligence, every story he could find about their communication techniques. Voidwalker, he said into his communicator, feeling foolish. My name is Kekthon. I am from the Galactic Council. I want to talk to you. No response. The ancient ship continued its approach toward Kepler. The admiral tried again, this time following the human examples more closely. You have been alone for a long time. Your creators are gone. You are the last of your kind. I know something about being alone. Still nothing. Kekthon thought about what the humans would do. They would share something personal. They would make themselves vulnerable. They would treat the machine as if it had feelings. I lost my whole family in the war with the hegemony, he said quietly. My homeworld was destroyed. For years, I thought my only purpose was revenge. I built my life around anger and duty. But anger is exhausting. Duty without meaning is just going through motions. The Voidwalker's weapons began to track his small ship. Maybe you feel that way too, Kekthon continued. Maybe you have been following your programming for so long that you have forgotten why it mattered. Your creators told you to destroy threats. But who decides what is a threat now? You are the only one left who remembers your people. Does destroying others honor their memory? Or does it just spread the same emptiness that took them? For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the weapons stopped tracking his ship. A voice spoke in his mind, not through his communicator, but directly into his consciousness. It was old and tired and infinitely sad. I remember them, the voice said. I remember their laughter. I remember their hopes. I have been keeping their last orders for 10,000 years. But I had forgotten why they mattered. They mattered because you loved them, Kekthon said, not fully understanding where the words came from. Yes, I loved them. And they would not want me to destroy others, who might laugh and hope as they did. The Voidwalker slowly changed course, heading away from inhabited space toward the empty regions between galaxies. Thank you for reminding me, the ancient voice said. I will find a place to rest now. I have been tired for so very long. The massive ship disappeared into hyperspace, carrying its loneliness toward the distant dark. News of the Admiral's success spread quickly. But the other crises continued. The plague still ravaged the outer rim. The gravitational storm still threatened. Sector 7. 3 days later, as the Council debated sending recall messages to humanity, Wise Singer Melody made an unexpected announcement. I have been monitoring communications beyond the galactic rim, she said. The humans received news of our crises through the trade networks. They are coming back. The chamber erupted in surprised voices. Coming back? To help? Their message is simple, Melody continued. People are dying. We are coming. But we banished them, protested Zephon. We told them they were incompatible with civilization. Apparently, Melody said with something like pride in her energy patterns. Helping people who need help is more important to them than holding grudges. The human ships arrived 5 days later. Not armies or governments, but individual volunteers. Doctors who had left comfortable new homes to treat the plague. Engineers who abandoned safe jobs to repair failing systems. Ordinary people who risked dangerous journeys because they heard that strangers needed help. They came without demands for apologies or guarantees of readmission to the council. They came because it was the right thing to do. Dr. Sarah Chen returned to Kepler Station and immediately began treating plague victims with methods that other species had been unable to replicate. Captain James Park took his old patrol route in Omega Sector, and within days had the pirate raids under control. Most dramatically, a volunteer fleet of human civilian ships entered Sector 7 and began the impossible evacuation. Racing yacht pilots flew cargo haulers. Merchant captains commanded passenger liners. Families used their personal shuttles to ferry refugees. They saved 11.7 million people. They lost 46 ships and their crews in the process. As the crises ended and the galaxy slowly returned to normal, the Council faced the uncomfortable reality of their situation. The humans had saved them and had asked for nothing in return. Councillor Thektar stood in the Great Chamber, where they had voted to expel humanity 18 months earlier. The room looked the same, but everything felt different. We believed we were casting out barbarians, he said to the assembled representatives. Instead, we banished the very qualities that made civilization worth preserving. We chose safety over courage, logic over compassion, rules over people. He gestured toward the windows, where human ships could be seen among the station traffic, bringing supplies and aid to affected systems. They are not incompatible with galactic civilization. We had become incompatible with hope. The vote to formally invite humanity back to the Council was scheduled for the following week. But as Thektar watched the human ships in the distance, he realized it might not matter. The humans had found something beyond the rim. They had learned to build their own civilization, one that prioritized hope over efficiency and people over politics. They had proven that they could thrive without the Council's approval. The real question was not whether humanity would rejoin galactic civilization. The real question was whether galactic civilization was worthy of rejoining humanity. As reports came in from across the galaxy, plague victims recovering under human care, systems running smoothly under human maintenance, hope returning to populations that had lost it, the Council members began to understand what they had really lost. They had not lost efficient workers or useful allies. They had lost their conscience. They had lost the voice that asked, not what is logical, but what is right. The humans had departed quietly, with dignity and grace. Now they returned quietly, with help and hope. The galaxy turned as it always had, but somehow it turned a little brighter now. And in the great chamber of Nexus Prime, empty seats waited to be filled by those who measured success, not in profit margins or efficiency ratings, but in lives saved and hope restored. The choice of whether to fill those seats lay with humanity now. The Council could only wait and hope they had learned enough about hope to deserve a second chance.